I'm a freshman at a university, and today in theology, my Catholic professor, she was talking about like, oh, scholars agree Jesus didn't see himself as God, and like, oh, there's no wrong or right interpretations of the Bible or anything. And then I kind of just felt guilty that I didn't say anything. But if I was going to say anything, it would probably just because I was like, that's wrong. So should I have said anything? Like, how do you balance like humility and like it coming out of love when you're just like, that's just not right?
This is a situation, or this is a kind of situation that requires a judgment call, because there's no universal answer that applies in all circumstances, and there are competing goods that come with costs that have to be considered in a situation like this. On the one hand, there's the good of correcting what the teacher said for the other students so that they're not misled by it. On the other hand, the students may listen to the teacher rather than you. So even if you try to correct the teacher for the students, for the benefit of the students, that's not guaranteed to have the outcome you want. On the other hand, there's also correcting the teacher for the sake of the teacher. But when teachers say things like this, they very frequently are not really open to being corrected by a student, and so they may not take the correction. They may just reject what you say out of hand. Then there are the things that can happen to you if you do this, especially if you do it repeatedly. On the one hand, the teacher may try to rebuke you in class and make you look bad, and they may have success in doing that in the eyes of the other students. And the teacher, because the teacher is the one with the power to grade you, the teacher may punish you in terms of your grade. And it's a balancing act to try to figure out what you want to do. Ideally, what you want to do is correct when a teacher makes a mistake. You want to correct the teacher, both for the teacher's benefit and the benefit of the other students. But there are constraints on your ability to do that, and you're undertaking an operation that may or may not have success. This is something that, believe it or not, I face somewhat regularly when I take classes, because I've studied a lot of subjects. I know a lot about different subjects, and sometimes I know more about a particular subject than the teacher does. And if I hear the teacher making a mistake, I sometimes let it go if it's not a major mistake, because I only have a certain number of interventions that I can make before I get branded as, oh, there's that troublemaker, and people, including the teacher, stop listening to me. What I also do is, when I make the claim, I want to correct the teacher, I try to be very diplomatic and very polite. I try not to put the teacher on the spot. I try to find a way to give the teacher an out, so that I'm trying very consciously not to humiliate the teacher. I'm trying to save face for the teacher. So, for example, I might say something like, in a case like this, where she said scholars have concluded that Jesus didn't know he was God, I would be inclined to say something like, well, actually, that's not a universal opinion among scholars. There are many scholars who believe that Jesus was aware that he was God. And that way, I'm not denying that, the element of truth that the teacher has, because there are scholars who will say stupid things like that. And so I'm not denying that there are scholars who say stupid things like that, but I'm also not saying it's a stupid thing. And I'm not directly contradicting the teacher. I'm supplementing what the teacher has said. And then another thing that I try to do is, and this is perhaps easier for me as an apologist, I'll have sources that I can name. And say, in this case, I could say, for example, scholars like Craig Evans and Martin Hengel and Richard Bauckham and people like that. would recognize that the Gospels and the New Testament more generally indicate an awareness on the part of Jesus that he was divine. I could name other scholars like, although I'm having a partial blank on the name, Larry Hurtado would be another one. And it's somewhat easy for me to do that because I have those names at my fingertips. In a case like yours, you might not have those names at your fingertips. And so what you could do is hold your powder for the moment, not say anything in this particular class, but then go do some research and get the facts that you'll want to have to correct what the teacher said. And then you could go back in the next class and ask a question and say, by the way, last time you said this, and I was wondering about that. So I did some checking, and it turns out that this isn't a universal opinion among scholars, that there are many scholars who believe that Jesus did recognize his own divinity. And here are some of the ones I found that believe that. And that way you're trying to present what you're saying as a supplement to what the teacher said, rather than just a "you're wrong" smackdown.